Welcome to Warblog. It's fancy doing a video. I've got a few scenarios that I could select. Things like Sanandaj, this Mary Emin, which is Operation Olive Branch, Damascus Steel. One thing about all of them, they're all pretty big and complex and take forever. I want to play this one. It's so simple. It's so simple. I don't know. When I look at these, just think, that's fantastic. I'd like to play that, but this one's not that bad. I'm not sure which ones I haven't. I'm just making a point, really. I've played this one. I've done the video for this, and there's not much in that. But generally speaking, there's a sort of like drive towards the bigger ones, and I just think that there's a lot to be said for these small ones. And so the whole idea here, and this is just happening, or just sort of happened, is that this is Afghanistan. So the Taliban are basically taking a base. It doesn't really state where the base is, but it's in Bala Baluk district of Farah province. So this whole thing is Farah province, but Bala Baluk is sort of a line from. Well, let's get the little drawing tool out. Why not? That's what it's there for. I think it goes a bit like that. So this is sort of Balak, and this is the rest, and this is the capital of Farah. Now, it's interesting because I sort of looked at it, and it doesn't look much more like a village. It could possibly be a town. Maybe it's got some important, capital-like buildings there. Maybe that's where the head of the provincial government is. But there's not much there. It's sort of, this road does exist and sort of goes nowhere. And it's interesting, really, because you get all these things, but they do look a bit like the Wild West, really. But anyway, so what we have is the Taliban. They take over this base, and the thing that they're saying is the Taliban control a lot of the Farah province already. That's what the news articles are saying. If we go back and have a look at a couple of them, well, they're both South Front ones. I did actually look at, I think, a couple of the other ones. If you look this up, there's a lot of sort of speculation about what's happening, etc. But they're sort of saying, will they take over the capital, which is Farah? It's actually Farah town, I think, or Farah. And they're saying, they won't be able to do it. So here what we've got is a sort of escalation of what can be done. I actually played it yesterday, actually. In fact, I wonder if it's in my games. It's a rare instance of me actually. Oh no, that's the one I'm playing now. This is the one I sort of went to bed. I played it, and as you can see, it took over. They retreated. So, but what we're going to see, I think, is that when they attack this, they'll probably get a DE. But when I played it, I didn't. I got a 10, and it was a DR. And but the question is, it gets harder and harder. So this is quite difficult to get. But they're only one strength. Here they've got a 3 defence. They're not in a fort, but they are in a village, so that will be 3.6, which will stop give them a bit of an edge. But so they might take this. It's not on the sort of as something that they've done. But the thing is, if they're lucky, basically they're not going to get down to here and take that. There's 9 points of defence in there, and if I'd continued on the one that I've got and got a DR. Get a DR in this one and managed to push this unit back into there, as you saw in the other game I played, that would be 4 points of defence. If these then pull back, they're not really going to get to Farah. So the whole the point of this is to sort of pass, not so much explore. I mean, obviously, I've just described the sort of spoken narrative on what has been said. They can take this base, which is what they're about to do. Taliban take a base, but they're quite unlikely to take Farah. And I think that will be borne out. But let's see. And of course, it's a fantastic game in the sense that it's not big. So let's see what they get. I'm sort of hoping that I get a 10 again. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's they've only got 0.4 and 0.4, so they can't move on that. So again, the Afghan forces evade total annihilation, which they should have got, really. I mean, what were the odds on that? That was a 6 to 1. I mean, it's just slightly less than 7 to 1, the worst. So we'll end the turn. So it's amazing that it does that. And I should be able to get down to there. Question is, can I do it? I'm not going to mess around. I was going to see if I could try and go down here, but I don't think I can. I can't get any further than that. And what I did, so we could move these forward. I wonder if that's going to be worthwhile. I mean, they moved there, 1, 2. They've got 6. They could possibly move down and attack this on its own and kill it. But if I move there, there'll be 15 to 4, which will be a 3 to 1. I think I'm going to actually move forward and create a larger hex. Okay, so what do the Taliban want to do? Well, they could shoot straight down here, but they've got to take this out. So the question is, strategically, do they take the base and sit there? I mean, they don't need a lot to take it. Or do they sort of just ignore it and try and hit while the iron's hot and come down here? Because they could possibly come straight down here. You know what? For sake of adventure, I'm going to see how far I can get these people. Let's just, because I can never remember how far they can move, but let's just move into there. So we've got 6 movement to move 1. So we're talking killing 2 birds with 1 stone. That it costs 1.2. So he will get 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can do it. Look. Can do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look at this. 1, 2, and he's got some road. Oh, 3 movement. Well, it's not as bad as it sounds. But do we leave that? Do we leave that base? Okay, well, let's see what we can do. Should be a 3, possibly a 4 to 1. Ouch, 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 ouch. Oh. Well, the thing is, it's a small, short game. And, well, that's that. I mean, it's a small, short game. And, you know, I can play it again and maybe win next time. Okay, and they've still got some movement. 0.4, 0.4, and he doesn't want to move, so that's that. Okay, well, what do we want to do down here? Well, you know what? Pretty tight like that. Okay. So let's go and get the base. They could have, if they'd had that luck on the second round, that would have made a lot of difference. The thing is that because it's stacked like that, they won't be able to get that bonus. So we're pretty safe there. You know, safety in numbers. Now, what do they do? Well, I want to take the village, but there's not a lot of point in trying to attack. And so they're just going to sit there, I think. Okay, so oh no. So that is now the Taliban, so they're just going to sit there, so in their turn. The Afghans. So they've taken the village, and now they're dug in. I'm not even going to think of the odds. Look at that. 2.7. So that was only a 2-to-1, but they got the so you know, this is I don't know. I get so excited about the simple things. But this is what I sort of showed that those other big games, because they're all great, but you know, you get so much additional. It's I don't know. I think it's almost like gambling. I think, you know, it's just, but it's a bit more than that. I mean, it's a bit different, you know, but you can get quite a lot of pleasure out of such a simple setup and structure. Right, so we've managed to win, but we don't really have enough to go much further, but they've depressed. See, the mechanized could move in, and then we could just hit again, but I don't think I want to. I think I will, actually. It's a risk. Three, possibly a 4-to-1. Okay, and we've still got a bit of movement left. So, things are going in their favour, but we've just knocked them back again, so that's 2. They both got DRs, so they've both now taken some damage. So they can counterattack, but they'll be counterattacking against, you know, these units in a town, but they could maybe counterattack against this infantry, but even then they'd only be at sort of 5, 10 times 0.8, so that's 1.10, that's 2, so they'll be on 8. No, they'll be firing on 8, and we're worth 9. No, we're worth 6, so that'd be a 2-to-1. So they could get a 2-to-1 against this infantry unit, possibly a 3-to-1. Okay, so it's now the Taliban turn. Do they want to go for it? 1, 2, 3. Well, every time you leave something, we took a risk there to, go out on the edge and get some damage, which we managed to do, but leaves us a bit exposed to a counter-attack by the Taliban. Oh, come on, click the button. DR. 5-1. Well, he can't do anything more. He can't do anything more. And he could. I don't think he's going to get a thinner eliminator or anything, but 1-1, an attack and retreat, so that backfired on him. Depression 4. So the Taliban had a good opportunity to eliminate that unit, and that would have really changed things. It would have put Farah at real risk. I think the Afghanistan High Command will be, a bit uncertain as to whether or not this leader here has made the right choices to leave his units exposed, to even come out from Farah to counter-attack and to take the battle to the Taliban, as opposed to just sitting there waiting for it. But right, we're going to take the battle outside. We'll move there and there. We can come back to that next time. Okay, we've got a DE on that. Just pushed him back there, pushing his depressions up to 2. He was fresh, if you remember from there. And here, exchange, got an 11, 3-1. They didn't get any results on that, but we're pretty strong there. So that means that the Taliban can get into there, but there's no point in doing anything, but they can do an attrition. Unsuccessful, 1-3 odds, because they just don't have the odds to make anything good happen there. Right, so do the Afghans want to attack again? Well, let's see, I think we should. They don't need that because the Taliban don't get any damage. Can't afford to keep doing that. The Taliban not going to. Well, the Taliban are actually going to try and do an attrition. Although they're going to sit there because they want to recover. So they're just going to recover. And Depression 3, Depression 2, the Afghans are going to recover. Taliban have now taken the village, they're going to recover. The Afghans are going to recover, but now they're dug in. And they're back up to strength. Now the Taliban have the option to hold, dug in, or try and go back to the base. The Afghans could bring this other infantry unit up to help the fight, but that would put Farah at risk. What do they do? Or do they go back to the base and take it because they haven't taken the base? It's a bit of a stalemate now. I mean, you could almost leave it at that and say, well, you know, they've got control of the village. They'd be sort of saying, well, we need more troops, we need more air support, we need some artillery, we need a bit more help. You know, we don't want to sort of do something that's going to risk everything. But it's a video, so we're going to risk everything. See, I think historically, I would end it there and say, you know, because we can't get those fantastic odds, because we don't want to leave Farah, you know, unprotected. But we'll probably get a 2-to-1, I imagine, and hopefully get a good result, but probably won't. 1-to-1. Yeah. Well, Taliban not going to do anything, and the Afghans are going to retreat. They've lost the momentum, and the Taliban are now just going to sit there and tell each other how great they are. The Afghan forces are going to recover back in Farah. So, we've answered the question of, can the Taliban take the momentum of capturing that base and take Farah? And I think the answer is no, but, you know, we had this sort of, I think the middle ground, essentially, the middle ground is here. You know, who can control this village? I mean, what the Afghans need, and I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say. I never want to say these things are realistic, but you can sort of say, well, how can we apply realistic sort of, you know, thinking to what's happened there? And I think, you know, a lot of it is sort of, you can say, well, if we had more resources, you know, if we had some air support. Because the thing is, I mean, I'm not a specialist, but I think the Afghan forces are slightly stretched. You know, they're not sort of like they're portrayed so much in the media, and in particular, you know, as they're portrayed in contrast against the Americans that have, you know, everything. You know, they don't have unlimited air support, etc., etc. But the thing is, and again, in a scenario, we're sort of confined by the limits of, not so much reality, but confined by the limits of the more immediate sense of activity in that scenario, in the sense that we come to the end of it. You know, the next stage would involve some kind of higher level decision making, some reinforcements, you know, recovering from fatigues, and you know, some decision making based on sort of the outcome there. And that would probably mean, you know, that the Afghans would bring in some more forces, but we don't have those. You know, we don't have, you know, the air power, etc. So I think it's quite interesting. I mean, we could have won there. We could have maybe been a little more successful. We could have held out. I think that the big thing was this the you know, the engagement there, where we lost 2 units. I mean, you know, I was lucky to keep that unit there, the 113, you know, the small company, and then to retreat down to here. But I was again, you know, similarly unlucky in that we lost when we had them all stacked up. So, you know, swings and roundabouts. But it would have been nice to have had that luck on both sides. But, you know, the luck sort of, you know, goes both ways. But then, you know, just as a sort of reminder, the degree of variance is much broader with a 1d12 as it is with 2d6. So, you know, and I think it's better like that, because you get results like this that have, you know, a great degree of variance. but not completely random. So I hope you enjoyed that, because I certainly enjoyed it, and I much rather these small scenarios where you can play them through and through. And this whole concept of the scenario having to be huge and complex, like the Western Front, in order to be fun and entertaining. I don't want to say fun, it's sort of thoughtful or stimulating, challenging, is something that I think comes with, sort of the way these sorts of games have just evolved over time. They just got bigger and have to be more complex and have to sort of do more and more things, so much so that people, I think, quite often lose the very nature of what it's about. I mean, you couldn't play this game again and again, but I think the process of that decision making is quite simplistic, and it's not a lot different. I always use the sort of the analogy of Sudoku, but I've been playing a lot of a card game called Freecell, and it's so easy to play. It's so simple, and you sort of think, well, what is it about Freecell that is satisfying? And it's a challenge, but it's still a mind-numbing challenge. And this is a little more of a challenge in the sense that it's more stimulating, but the principles are the same. If you were to do this, read up on things like game science, I think you'd sort of you come up with some conclusions on actually what's happening. And again, and it's the same. The arguments are not sort of new or anything. I mean, people will quite often say, well, we could put this in a fantasy environment where these are orcs and these are elves, and but the thing is, so you've got this sort of theme to the game of modern war, utilising real life current scenarios. And you think, well, how does that change the actual process of playing a game which is mechanically defined within the confines of moving within hexes with movement rates and combat values and etc. And I just don't think it's really much of an argument, in the sense that we're not going to discover the secrets of the universe by contemplating that, but I think it's still quite fundamental and quite important to understand, sort of what are you doing when you're playing a game like this, and what is the implication of one theme over another. And I don't know. I just feel that the application of real modern world themes, it takes it to a level that just feels a little more satisfying, in the sense that you can contemplate, as you're doing things, how things are actually panning out, and what these things mean, and you get a little more sense of what's happening, in everything else that you do. When you read these stories, you can sort of say, well, I can think about what happened here. I understand a little bit more about Farah, but it doesn't actually change a great deal. I mean, it's not sort of it's not going to allow me to actually change the course of history or to solve the problems of this conflict in any way whatsoever. But that's that. I mean, it's just a game. It's a little speck in a little speck of sand, or a little drop in a huge ocean of content on the web, that's geared up in one way or another to provide either entertainment or information, etc., etc. But it's always interesting to sort of comprehend, sort of try and consider actually what's happening, and I just think it's sort of intriguing, because in contrast to other things, just like looking at this, sort of thinking, well, we got probably 100 or 200 of those sorts of scenarios. Well, what happens if we were to take just that scenario that we just got there, and then it just in size? Oh, there's too much air power. Did I? Yeah. Anyway, that's what happens when there's a lot of air power. But what I'm trying to say is, what happens if we were to take this and then just take a box like that? We can say, okay, well, we've got the same. Let's talk about these three against these three. And let's take this box here and create a scenario on that. you know, I mean, you can sort of say, well, I'll do this, I'll do that. You know, it can be quite satisfying. You don't need to suddenly have more than you can eat all at once. This is like sort of, you know, what we just did there was like a McDonald's hamburger and fries. That's what I buy when I go to McDonald's, because it's like £1.50. It's not a cheeseburger, it's a hamburger that doesn't have any cheese. I say, do you want some cheese with that? No, I don't. It's the smallest of the small. But, and I don't really particularly like it. I like the fact that it costs like 89 pence in England for a hamburger. Whereas if you go to Burger King, the cheapest you can get anything for is like about £10. I mean, it's about £8, you know, and you get a big meal, and I don't want all of that, and I don't want to spend that much money. But this is like, so if that other thing was like, you know, a McDonald's hamburger, you know, the small thing that's about like 10 centimeters thick and lasts about sort of like 5 seconds eating time, and some fries, you know, 30 or 40 fries in a very small packet, as opposed to sort of like a suitcase full of fries. You know, if that's what that is, then this is enough to feed a small nation. I mean, there's more than one meal here. There's like 30 hamburgers, 6,000 French fries, 2,500 milkshakes, all the desserts and everything on the menu times 15. You know, it's just massive, and so I do like to juxtapose, you know, the one from the other. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, because I've probably been talking for way too long, above and beyond the actual scenario. But I hope you enjoy that. I hope you. I don't know how I get back to. I hope you suddenly sort of think, oh, because this is another one. I'm not going to play this now, but you sort of think, oh, you know, this isn't much of a war game, but I hope I put it into perspective that you can suddenly look at this war game now and say, this looks actually quite interesting. You know, and I think this is one of the things I've been trying to achieve in Warblog. You'll go through the scenarios. I mean, look, there's absolutely hundreds of them now, and there's always going to be somewhere in there. For example, this one. You know, there's not a lot that happens in there. There's not a lot of units. There's still quite a few. I mean, some of these are big. You know, lots of units. But here, there's not a lot of units. Again, small scenarios that, I mean, there's still quite a lot in there, but, you know, so I hope that sort of helps put things into perspective as to what you might be able to get out of Warblog with regards to both the big, you know, the involved, and the simplistic, and, you know, quick and easy to play, etc., etc. I mean, you know, these things take no time at all to make, and they're incredibly entertaining, and these things take forever to make, and I never play them. So what is the best? I mean, obviously there's sometimes there's a bit more involved. I mean, for example, this one I played, I think I put the video in there. I had a great time, but, you know, this video is like it's about nearly an hour long. You know, it still takes time. The more units, you know, this is still quite a big game. But, you know, there's just being able to sort of comprehend, you know, scale of game, size of game, and then actually start thinking about what you get out of it, and actually, you know, what that means in the bigger sense of actual entertainment, so to speak. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. So, as I said, sign up to Warblog and have a blast at the big games and the small games, and you know, enjoy thinking. I'll speak to you later. Cheers, bye.